Hello from downtown Wilmington. My name is Dane Scalise. I'm chair of Wilmington Downtown Incorporated. Since 1977, WDI's mission has been the economic growth and development of downtown Wilmington and by extension our entire region. We are a public-private partnership, and that means we work alongside local government, other nonprofits, private businesses, and individuals to find ways to grow and develop our downtown in intelligent and exciting ways. And I can't think, truly cannot think, of a project that better demonstrates that mission than Project Grace. Over the next hour, you'll hear from 5 individuals who care deeply about our community. These folks are all working together on Project Grace in different ways in an effort to help reimagine a critical block of our downtown. I'm confident that you will leave this live stream knowing the honest facts about what this project is and isn't. Our panel is made up of the following local community members: Jennifer Rigby, Chief Strategy Officer for New Hanover County; Adam Tucker, Director of Development for Zimmer Development Company; Chris Boney, Chief Relationship Officer for LS3P; Natalie English, President and CEO for Wilmington Chamber of Commerce, and a special thank you to Natalie for hosting us in the Chamber's office in downtown Wilmington. Thank you very much, Natalie. And finally, WDI's President and CEO, Holly Childs. At the end of the panelists' remarks, we will present questions from you all to the panelists. We've already received some emailed questions, but we welcome you to write in with your questions during the presentation. We'll get to as many as we can. But in order to keep things on track and on time, we will have to stick to that hour. And if you are unable to hear your question, please reach out to me. Please reach out to WDI. We'll be happy to help facilitate an answer to it after this event. Personally, I love this project. And I know that it is being handled with the utmost care by dedicated people who live and work here in our community. With that, I turn things over to the incomparable Jennifer Rigby. Jennifer, thank you very much for being here. What can you tell us about Project Grace?
Thank you, Dane. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with my fellow panelists. New Hanover County is always looking for ways to do things better. In fact, a commitment to continuous improvement is the very foundation of our strategic plan. And so over the past several years, New Hanover County has built several new buildings: the Pine Valley Library, the Health and Human Services Building, the Juvenile Justice Building, which we just had a ribbon cutting yesterday, and now the new Government Center, which we will break ground on later this spring. The vision behind each of these buildings is for our citizens to be served in the best possible way. So if you've not been to any of these new buildings, I invite you to visit them to experience firsthand how these buildings are uniquely designed to serve our citizens, whether they are receiving food and nutrition services from our Health and Human Services building or checking out a book from our new Pine Valley Library. New Hanover County has a relentless focus on customer service. So that brings me to the block that the county owns in downtown Wilmington and the possible redevelopment of the site, which many know as Project Grace. Downtown Wilmington has become the crown jewel of our region through the hard work of many groups like Wilmington Downtown Inc. and the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Wilmington. It's an incredibly special place with a rich history and culture, and it's won numerous national awards for the Riverwalk and seen tremendous redevelopment and investment over the past 10 years. So in 2016, our Board of Commissioners realized there was potential opportunity for the county-owned block downtown, and they charged staff to work with Wilmington Downtown Inc. to explore what opportunities may exist for the site. Our main library currently sits on this block. Also, adjacent to the library, we have Story Park, as well as a parking deck, and there's also several unused surface lots on this block. At the Board of Commissioners' direction, we conducted a market and site analysis to understand what could fit on the site and if there was room left over what the market would support from the private sector on this site. So through this market and site analysis, which was conducted by a planning firm out of Raleigh, we learned that not only could we include a brand new state-of-the-art library on the site, but there was also plenty of room to add a new Cape Fear Museum on this site. Now, as an aside, for years we've been trying to figure out how to address the facility limitations of the existing Cape Fear Museum. During Hurricanes Joaquin, Matthew, and Florence, the basement flooded, putting our entire collection at risk. We've done a lot of good remediation work to the Cape Fear Museum to protect it, but the fact remains it was never designed to house a collection and to serve our citizens as a museum. So the idea was developed to create two new facilities that could collaborate and enrich our citizens' learning experiences in new and exciting ways. As a part of the market and site analysis, we also learned that even after the library and museum were constructed, there was still plenty of room left on the site which could be used by the private sector to energize downtown and provide additional benefits to our community. This study is what really opened the board's eyes to the possibilities of the site, and the possibilities were a lot greater than we ever imagined. Before jumping into the project, our board asked us to conduct additional studies. Most importantly, they asked us to conduct a space needs analysis for the museum and also one for the library to help us understand the true needs of these facilities today and for the future. These studies were carefully and deliberately done, taking direct input from the staff at the library and museum so that our board would have the information they needed to make an informed decision. Commissioners then asked staff to use these studies to inform a solicitation for a developer. So in December of 2018, Zimmer Development submitted a full proposal with renderings of what the project could look like. In partnership with Zimmer Development, we held numerous public meetings to gather input from the community about the project. We also conducted a public input survey and asked 3 important questions. What do you like about the project? What do you not like about the project? What questions do you have? Staff poured over numerous comments from the community. Many questions were easily answered at the time, and there were some questions that we just didn't have answers to. So in April of 2019, after receiving a tremendous amount of public input, our Board of Commissioners gave staff the directive to explore 2 paths to gather more answers. The first path was to explore a partnership with the state to support and operate the Cape Fear Museum and thereby removing it from Project Grace. The second path was to continue conversations with Zimmer Development to incorporate the public input. I think examining these paths was incredibly important. The commissioners heard from the community and wanted to make sure they didn't rush into the project. They wanted all of the facts. Since that directive in 2019, county staff has researched and explored both paths directed by the board. The North Carolina Historical Commission conducted a feasibility study of the state assuming operations of the Cape Fear Museum. And after many months, the state notified the county that while, yes, it is feasible for the state to assume operations of the Cape Fear Museum, there were several major considerations. Most notably, the county would lose local control over the acquisition and deaccession of artifacts. And secondly, the county would have to invest upwards of $10 million into the facility before the state would take over the operations. Based on this information, the state's feasibility study to assume operations of the museum was not pursued further. So the second path the Board of Commissioners wanted staff to explore was to continue conversations with Zimmer to incorporate the public feedback we received to get a better understanding of project costs and terms. This resulted in the development of a memorandum of understanding that is currently out for review. This memorandum of understanding includes the following: a new library space, a new museum space, office space, multifamily space, with 5% of the units dedicated to workforce housing, retail space, and it also includes community elements such as an outdoor gathering area or park. It also outlines the basic financial parameters of the project. The county would own the land where the museum and library are constructed. The county would provide a ground lease to the developer, so the developer could then pay for and construct the library and museum, and then the county would lease the buildings from the developer for 20 years at a rate of not to exceed $4.5 million. At the end of 20 years, the county would own the museum and the library without any additional cost. So this MOU is a document that really redefines the project and allows the developer the opportunity to continue planning with the agreed upon terms. The Board of Commissioners will hold a public hearing on the MOU on March 15th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the community is welcome to come to the meeting and make comments, or the community can submit those comments ahead of time by email. And that email address is comments@nhcgab.com. If the MOU is approved at that time, the next steps would take 9 months to a year, and it would include finalizing the schematic plans, the design, and the construction documents. That would then lead us to a development agreement and another public hearing to direct input from the community. So we are really in the first step of this refresh project. The vision for Project Grace has always been to increase economic development opportunities while also enhancing the public services on the block. The library and museum are important assets for our community, and the project's overall goal is to make them even better with a customer-focused space that allows for new, innovative programs and exhibits to serve and to benefit the community well into the future. I appreciate Zimmer Development Company, LS3P, the Chamber, and Wilmington Downtown Inc. working with us on this project. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Arthur.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm Adam Tucker. I'm the Director of Development, and just really happy to continue to work on this project and see it towards its path to completion. We've been very fortunate to have a great team with the county. Jennifer has been great to work with. I guess when I think about downtown Wilmington, I think about longevity and growth. And so I kind of want to start with the micro, which is me, and then to the macro, which is you. I'm from Clinton, North Carolina. Been coming to Wilmington since 421 was the only way to get here before 40, buying bikes at Winter Park Swin. I went to school in North Carolina, been working for Zimmer Development for 15 years now. Have 3 kids going through school, in high school now. Just love the area and am committed to being here through the project and seeing it to fruition. The company I work for is Zimmer Development Company. Many of you may have heard the name around in passing. The development company started in the 80s, but its history goes way beyond that. Bill Zimmer started Reed's Jewelers actually 75 years ago today at the corner of Princess, or not today, but this year, at the corner of Princess and Front Street. Started with one store, grew it to one of the nation's largest privately owned jewelry stores. It's still managed today by third generation Zimmer family members, 100% owned by Zimmer family members. The development company does developments up and down the East Coast. We use our own equity, which is important because that ensures that we are going to produce a quality product. We are not merchant developers. We do not do fee development. So when you hear merchant development and fee development, that means people are in it for a short term and to flip out of it or make a quick profit. We do not develop anything that we intend to sell. That's not to say we haven't sold anything, but everything we develop is developed to be have longevity and sustainability. We do a lot of P3 work throughout the country, so this is not our first rodeo with a public-private partnership. We've got experience in understanding how to deliver what the end user needs. We are a facilitator in this process. We do bring expertise in development, but at the end of the day, the county and you are our clients, and we need to make sure that what is required is delivered. We'll have a team of consultants that we will rely on to help us make decisions to do the program and understand the timelines that are required. Our office is actually downtown as well. I've been there since day one. This project would be less than 500 feet from our back door. So when we first heard about it, it was just a natural fit for us to try to help. The Zimmer family has been very active throughout the county since its inception, most notably through the Zimmer Cancer Center. We also are known for another high-profile mixed-use project in Wilmington, which was Mayfair. It has been very successful in not only creating kind of economic growth in the region, but also providing goods and services that may not have otherwise come to Wilmington. So we're very proud of the work we did there. It continues to be successful today. The Zimmer family is committed to this project. They've been here 3 generations, plan to be here forever, so we're appreciative for them for their support as well. Moving on a little bit into the development side, libraries and museums and public spaces have changed a lot in the last 10 years. The way people access information, the way people interact has really been revolutionized by the internet and technology. Libraries are not what they once were. Reference sections and stacks and that kind of technical aspect of the library has given way more to vibrance and gathering spaces and ease of information. And we believe that we can produce a project downtown that will enhance those experiences. A lot of studies show that millennials are actually big users of libraries, which you would not really believe, but many young millennials have parents or are parents of young children. They grew up in a technological age, so when they're going to libraries and museums, they're looking for their children to have that experience of being able to interact and have a more virtual experience than one that's a one-sided experience. Excuse me. The library downtown has done a good job of serving its purpose, but we believe that we can make strides such as were made with the Pine Valley Library. I'm sure if you've been there, you've kind of seen the stark difference from what was to what is now, and we believe we can bring that same concept to downtown. One of the things that was very, I guess, memorable to me and my children was everyone does a tour of downtown in elementary school, and since I work downtown, I see these kids and their teachers all the time on their field trips, and we think it'd be a great jumping off point to design the library and the museum so it could be the first stop when the kids come downtown and they can go sit and be informed about the history of Wilmington, and then be shepherded out safely downtown and see the vibrant streets that are still there today, even with the long past that they've had in history. We did, as Jennifer said, have a lot of discussions previously on this project, and although there were a lot of different opinions, one opinion really remained the same, was that the library should remain in the core of downtown and the museum should be a focal point of our culture. And we don't disagree with either of those statements. People talk about, well, I shopped at the Beltberry building, and I have this memory that I went by the armory and the National Guard was out there, and there's so many uses that have been through these buildings throughout the years. I think that we've got a good opportunity here to advance to the next stage, but not forget our past. That's one thing that I'll say we didn't do a good job of the first go around. We were so forward-looking and trying to make sure that we plan for the future, we kind of forgot our past. And a lot has been talked about adaptive reuse, which I believe is a great function of architecture and planning, and the county has done an amazing job. I mean, they've already reused the Beltberry building for a library for many years, the same with the armory into the Cape Fear Museum. But times have changed, and just like everything else, there's this life use of a building and adaptive use. While great, I think at this point it's time to look a little bit ahead. But the money that we're talking about putting in the existing buildings, it doesn't pay for upgrades to technology. It doesn't enhance the experience. The money that's in these reports is literally just changing out air conditioning units and things that aren't really benefiting the community. They're just keeping a building running. So I think, when we started this process 3 years ago, we overlooked that longevity. And as we've come back and reimagined the project, we were able to really get a new team member who's got a long history in Wilmington, has done a lot of architectural work in the history of Wilmington, and someone he's quite frankly taken this block and immersed it into a new district. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Chris Boney, the LSPP.
All right, thank you, Adam. It's a great intro and a lot to follow. I appreciate that. My name is Chris Boney, as Adam said. I'm an architect with LS3P. I'm also the son of an architect, grandson, brother, and cousin of an architect. We have been privileged, and it's been my great privilege in my lifetime to work and practice architecture in my hometown for the last 24 years. This project is important to me and to all of us, as it should be, and we've got to get it right. We've seen a lot of change here. My family actually celebrates our 100th anniversary of practicing architecture in Wilmington next year. My grandfather came here to help design New Hanover High School back in 1922. So it's an incredible honor, and actually prior to 1922. It's a great honor and privilege to be involved with what could be one of the most impactful projects of my lifetime. I remember going to buy my first bicycle in the basement of the old Belk store, the old Belk Berry store from the great Mr. Berry. And so it's been something that I've been aware of for a long time. I know the town and the place, and it's something I'm very proud of. I remember speaking about the possibility of co-locating some of our cultural resources with Rick Willis over 15 years ago. The idea holds great promise. It held it then, and I think it holds it today. Cities evolve, they change, and Wilmington is no exception. In urban design, placing complementary uses in close proximity yields positive results with more pedestrian traffic, interdependency of users and people, active sidewalks, and a more vibrant city. This promise of a vibrant and thriving downtown has long been our goal in Wilmington. We've come a long way, certainly in my lifetime, and this project holds the promise of creating something truly special. Buildings also evolve and change. I remember going to the North Carolina room to research the history of Wilmington architecture with the great Beverly Tedderton, and it's different today. The room's evolved, the research aspect has evolved. Today it's all online, documents are scanned in, and the way that we interact with our libraries has just changed today from what it used to be. But I really want to imagine what's possible. So one thing I'd like to make clear, we were not involved with the design of the previous efforts. We will be taking a fresh look at what is possible and what we should do down there, because we have to get it right for all the citizens of New Hanover County, but also for those that come after us. So I want to imagine the potential future for what could be there, and I'm very, very excited about it. You know, imagine a cultural celebrations street along Chestnut that links our historic Galleon Hall, our city and county offices, our library, our museum, our post office, the new River Place complex, and ultimately the expanded and improved Riverfront Park on one linear city street that really celebrates Wilmington. It could be a festival street, it could be a place of civic discourse. It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and there's no other street in Wellington that holds so much promise. Imagine a place that provides an outdoor plaza for civic discourse, for school children to gather and tour both the library and the museum, and our great historic Galleon Hall, all of our civic treasures. When I think about the design of this building and what's possible, I really can't wait to dig in with our leaders and staff about what they envision for the complex and really begin to craft a future that we can be proud of for the next 100 years. But I also can't help dreaming. You know, I think of a place that celebrates the history of New Wellington's unique tectonic fabric, from naval stores and ballast stone to Augusta brick and granite curves. I also think about the great steps that celebrate ones like we have at our historic high schools, Williston and New Hanover High, places where we all gather for class photos and for reunions, where we look back at historic achievements, and it creates a synergy and a place where we all remember and go back to. Imagine some steps like that that can capture that spirit of place. But mostly I imagine a place that celebrates the future of Wilmington. We can appreciate the highs and lows of our past, but we must build something that is for your children and my children and for all of our grandchildren. We need to get it right, and we must make it great. Speaking of great, Natalie English is next up after me, and Natalie's doing a fantastic job with the Chamber. So glad you're here. I'm so glad to pass this over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the Chamber building tonight. I'm glad that you're here. In case you don't know, the Chamber's vision is to promote prosperity by encouraging business growth. We do that because business growth means job growth, and job growth means prosperity for everyone in our community. We're excited about the potential to transform a block in downtown Wilmington. And it's not the last block we want to see transformed. There's lots of opportunity in our community, and that kind of activity breeds activity. So to think about a block that Chris imagines that would have the functions of our public library and a museum that attracts all ages and that educates our citizens and the visitors to our community, but is showcased in the center of our community, is exciting to us at the Chamber. We're excited that the county invests in all of the facilities and the services that are important for our success and for our economic growth, and especially the investment in cultural resources. You should appreciate that. That's not normal. Not every community has a county government that invests in cultural resources like New Hanover County does. We're excited about the opportunity that the facilities will bring in attracting new businesses. When businesses consider relocating or expanding, they want to be somewhere where there's a strong center core of the region. They want to be close to the action. Again, activity breeds activity. Our workforce wants to live in a community where they have choices. Some people want urban, some want suburban, and some want rural. We continue to invest in Wilmington and New Hanover County in ways that offer those choices to our current and future workforce. We're excited about how that synergy in the way we create our communities and the way we invest in our cultural resources will also build our workforce for tomorrow. As Adam talked about, field trips to downtown Wilmington, that's the beginning, right? Those are the ages of our future workforce. We need to invest in them today and continue to do so. We're excited that our county is open to a public-private partnership. What that tells businesses is that your county and your city are open to recognizing the strengths that the business community can bring to an idea and to a solution, and depends on that partnership. That P3, public-private partnerships, send a really good message to the business community. We commend the commissioners on taking the deliberate steps to gather the real market and site data, because that's the information that informs the best decisions. As Chris said, we have to do this right, and we're excited about the work that's gone into that. You know, when I was offered the job and the announcement came back in January of 2017, so I'm about to celebrate 4 years here, Chris, I said that day that if a city isn't growing, it's dying. And I'm excited that I get to be a part of a community that's willing to continue investing in growth that supports economic growth. And that's why we're all here. We have the best community. The diversity that we have in the way we get to live, work, and play is amazing. We get to celebrate our history over and over again. Sometimes it's not the prettiest history, but we know it's a part of who we are, and we continue to talk about it. Those are the right things to do. I believe, and the Wilmington Chamber Board believes, that Project Grace will continue to contribute to our ability to talk about our history, talk about our past, celebrate it, learn from it, and look forward to the future and creating an even better community tomorrow. And another person in the room who's going to help us with that tomorrow, I'm so excited to have a new teammate on our team here in Wilmington. Holly Childs with Wilmington Downtown Inc., welcome.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it, and thanks to all the committee, the panel here that put this presentation together. As Dane mentioned in his very opening remarks, WDI's mission is very clear. Our mission is to promote the economic growth and development of downtown Wilmington. And as Natalie and others have mentioned, we cannot fulfill that mission of attracting new investment with substandard public facilities, and we should not stand for blighted blocks to persist in our downtown as a lifetime legacy that we just choose to accept. When I look at the Project Grace block, as I do every day walking to and from work, I see a block of blight, a block full of public facilities that need repair and investment, and a library that, frankly, I originally thought was a jail given its lack of windows. That's unacceptable. We're at a critical time for our downtown. Downtown is attracting more investment and residents than ever before. Growth and change are inevitable, but we can't just ignore entire blocks for decades and not plan for or invest in our future. People who move to our downtown, like me, and buy a home here, and our longtime residents who continue to invest in their own homes and raise their families in downtown Wilmington expect that their public facilities downtown should not be of a lesser quality than public facilities located in other areas of New Hanover County. This evening we've heard from the panel, we've heard the history of Project Grace, and we've heard that it's been years in the making. Now we've been given an enormous opportunity to work together as a local team with the Board of Commissioners, with the project team here tonight, and with you, the public, to reimagine the block that is Project Grace. And I would say that redevelopment of this project is not simply about buildings. I would say that this block is about people, about equity, and about access. We need to make sure that people who live and raise their families in our downtown have the same access to a modern, inviting, light-filled public library as other areas of New Hanover County. We need to make sure that people in our downtown, both our residents and our visitors alike, have access to world-class Smithsonian exhibits that can only be held in a modern, well-designed, functional Cape Fear museum. And we need to create opportunities for access to workforce housing that is part of a well-designed civic and arts district that we create in the heart of our downtown. In short, downtown Wilmington and its residents deserve better. This project has been a long time coming, but this is our opportunity, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. It is absolutely the right time to do it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to the panelists for their remarks. I'm pleased to say that we've gotten quite a few questions from the folks who are attending our live stream, and I'm going to try to attend to those. I invite the panelists to weigh in as they see fit. One of the first questions pertains to design changes, particularly with the library, but perhaps more broadly since the last presentation. Who is prepared to speak to this interesting question? Chris, do you mind speaking to it?
I'd be happy to. I will say that the design of the library is something that we're going to be treating in a lot of ways with a fresh set of eyes. Adam and his team, the first go around, got lots of stakeholder input, and Jennifer and her team will be relying on a lot of the input that they were given, but also looking at it through a new lens. I and my team were not involved in the original design that came forth, and so I want to stress that we're going to be sort of beginning over with taking a hard look at what's appropriate today, what's appropriate for Wilmington. We're actually working with UNC Wilmington right now on re-envisioning the Randall Library, doing a major renovation in addition to that. So we'll be taking a lot of the learning and thinking from that team that is currently completing that design and applying it to the county library as well. So we look forward to the challenge and look forward to meeting with the staff and the leadership of the library to figure out what the future can and should be.
Thank you, Chris. Another question. What will be done with the existing museum building if, in fact, this project is approved and the museum is brought into downtown? Jennifer, I think you probably would be a good person to speak to that. Sorry to put you on the spot. Do you mind answering?
I would be glad to. Thank you, Dane. So that's a great question. So the existing Cape Fear Museum is a beautiful historic building. It's an anchor in the neighborhood that is surrounding it. And when we were conducting the space needs analysis for the Cape Fear Museum, we came up with the concept that we would relocate the exhibits and the public-facing space into the downtown area where it would have more foot traffic and more visibility. And in the existing Cape Fear Museum, we would utilize that space to bring the collection out of the basement and up to a higher level, either on the first or second floor, and to turn that into a research facility where we could really spend time with the collection and really make sure that we were housing the collection in a sustainable manner. So that would become part of the museum, but not the public-facing part.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anyone else want to speak to that subject? All right. Let's move on to the next question. Folks sometimes ask about parking in downtown, and there are some folks that are curious about how this project may impact parking in downtown. I don't want to presume anything, but Adam, are you able to speak to that question?
Sure, thank you. Since this project will be a mixed-use project, think of it as kind of a shared parking arrangement. Under the MOU, the county will retain control of the parking deck, but when we have kind of a live, work, play atmosphere, the majority of the people that live there, while some will work downtown and probably walk to work, the majority of them will get in their cars and drive to work during the day, thus opening spaces for the library and the museum, which are the heavy day users. I believe there's over 600 parking spaces in there now, and we've looked at, in the earlier round, we looked at doing some improvements that we could gain actually a couple of additional spaces. So the analysis that we've run on the shared parking arrangement will allow for these uses to work in conjunction with one another. We're also excited, we're really trying to focus on potentially doing some refacing of the parking deck and making it more aesthetically pleasing and potentially green. If you've been downtown Raleigh recently across from the Red Hat Amphitheater, their parking deck has a shimmer wall that has an oak tree on the side of it. So when the wind blows right, you see kind of this oak tree. There's a city of oaks. So, we've kicked around the idea of having a shimmer wall that may, reflect something in the Cape Fear region. We've also kicked around the idea of putting some type of screening that will have some greenery, some vines growing around it to give a more organic feel. These are things that we'll continue to work on as we progress in the design.
Adam, I'll just add, if I may, that the parking trends and methodology have really shifted and changed a lot since the parking deck was originally built over 30 years ago. The Urban Land Institute is a group that studies real estate trends and shifts and opportunities. And if you talk to them, they'll tell you that a lot of their membership are seeing parking ratios that are 1.3 per residential unit now, or even 1.0, whereas even 10, 15, 20 years ago, we were seeing 2 cars per residential unit in a lot of our urban downtown areas. The requirements and rates are just dropping. They're dropping fairly dramatically over the last couple of decades. In particular, with the advent of rideshare, we've seen it go down an incredible amount just in the last 10 years. So the parking deck has a lot of capacity. We've got to make sure there's enough to make room for the library and the museum uses. That's certainly a primary concern, but we also have the added advantage of shared use statistics and looking at residential versus office versus cultural assets that are open at different times. There's the ability to overlap some of the parking at different times of the day. And we'll be doing a deep analysis of all that to make sure there's enough parking for the uses that are provided.
Chris, thank you very much. Adam, thank you very much. This is a great question. Perhaps puts everybody on the spot a little bit, but I suppose that's what a Q&A session is. What other P3 projects would the folks on the panel suggest that we might look at that can give the folks who are watching this on the live stream an idea about what P3 means and what that might mean for us here in Wilmington with Project Growth?
Well, I don't know if Jennifer's up for talking about it, but I think the public-private partnership with the Government Center property is a really good example. I think River Place is another good example of where a local government and a private company come together to improve the resources, the facilities that exist in a community, and again, create economic growth so that new jobs are created, so that I don't know if you guys have heard the numbers, but we are the fastest growing region in the state of North Carolina. So people are coming here. If we are not thinking about increasing the number of residential units in this community, we're not going to have anywhere to put them all. And so those are the kinds of things that public-private partnerships can address.
Natalie, thank you for bringing up the Government Center because that is a P3 project and we anticipate breaking ground on that later this spring. We have a wonderful development team that's been working with us and the great thing about the P3 project is it takes the best of both worlds. So the private sector can't do everything and the public sector can't do everything. And so when you put them together in a partnership, it really helps to bring out the best in both. And so we've had a great experience with the P3 at the Government Center, and Chris is actually on the project team for that and the designer for that. So I don't know if you would like to share anything as well.
Well, I would share that the county's been a fantastic partner and really great to work with. Jennifer and her entire team are pros at this. And we've learned a lot together during that process, but it's been a really good process. And I think the citizens of our county are going to be very pleased and excited with what the county staff is bringing to bear and what you'll be able to see when that project's completed. They really put their focus on customer service and customer delight, as they put it. And they live that and mean it and breathe it. And I'm sure they're going to bring that same focus to this project and really demand excellence from the entire development and design team to make sure that this project is executed really well. Another P3 project I'll just point to that's a bit of an older example outside of our area is the Charleston Place Hotel. If those of you that go to Charleston and like Charleston may or may not know, but the Charleston Place was a public-private partnership between the city and the developers of the hotel. At the time that was built, there was a lot of blight in downtown Charleston and a lot of vacant lots and parking lots, and they didn't have the vibrancy of retail and hospitality that you see today that we all know and love if you get to go and visit Charleston. That project really was the catalyst that a lot of people point toward as beginning the growth pattern for that city. I think this project could have a similar impact on Wilmington and really be a fantastic public-private partnership.
Thank you very much. One question that we've received several times relates to timeline, time frame. If, in fact, this project were to be approved, what are we looking at in terms of where we are today and where we might see the project as envisioned by the developer and the architect, the county, all the other folks that are interested in this as a potentiality for our community?
So, I'll take that one.
Thank you, Adam.
This is not going to happen overnight, as much as many of us would like it to. It will be a deliberate process. We still will have to go through all the permitting and planning stages, just like if it was a private development. So, in general, if the MOU is approved and signed in March, we have at least a 6-month design period to get through. There's some dates in the MOU that accelerate that, and we hope to meet those deadlines. But once we get through planning, we're going to have another probably 6 months of back and forth on permitting through the county and the different state agencies, and then at least 24 months of construction on the building. So even if everything goes well in a perfect world, we're probably 3 years away from actually occupying the building.
One question that we received related to potential tenants that might be in the building. It's probably a bit premature to say that. Is that fair to say, Adam?
It is. We're hopeful that we'll with this type of announcements or webinars or we'll be able to advance the project and generate some interest. We have had a couple of local downtown businesses that are already in downtown that are either looking to expand their current business or a second location reach out to us. We do have a retail component to this project. There's still bits of the project that have not been decided on. The amount of office space we may have, the different uses are still being decided on, but we hope to have a true live, work, play atmosphere, so there's a little bit of something for everybody in the district.
Thank you very much. Got some comments about how this benefits downtown, if this benefits downtown. Holly, do you mind speaking to that subject from your perspective?
No, I absolutely don't. I think this project is absolutely critical to downtown. I think, this block has, it's in the center, right? It's right in the heart of downtown. These civic and arts facilities being located on a block that is walkable, that is easily accessible by everyone in the downtown, whether they're living there or visiting there. It not only makes those facilities themselves be more utilized, it also creates, as Adam was saying, a live, work, play community where you can go and you can live in the condos or the apartments or work in the office buildings. I think the retail component, that business is already reaching out. I think that just speaks to the fact that people want to be in downtown Wilmington. People want to invest in our downtown, and providing a place for them to do that and providing the resources for them to be attracted to invest in downtown, it's something that WDI fully supports.
Natalie, anything you want to add to that?
I would add that again, as I said, a center core of a region is critically important to economic growth. There are people who choose to live in a rural setting. They still need a job, and many of them are going to commute to the core of the region, which for our region is Wilmington. So it's downtown. So it's not only the center of our downtown, but that block is the center of this entire region, and it's critically important that we do it right, as Chris said, for the future of our economy.
Thank you all. How about the concept of workforce housing? A number of folks have written in with questions about what that is, what that means. Any of our panelists, perhaps you, Jennifer, you mind speaking to that? Adam as well, perhaps?
I'd be glad to. So workforce housing is a concern in our community. The city and the county have put forward together a joint workforce housing committee, and they have established that workforce housing is somewhere between 60% and 120% area median income. So that's the parameters that we're looking at. And so when we began this project and had a lot of public input on it, we heard a lot about the importance of making sure that workforce housing was a part of this project. And so in conversations with Zimmer, they've committed to making at least 5% of the units, the multifamily units in the project, at the workforce housing rate.
and we do work all over, and I'll commend Jennifer and the county for actually defining workforce housing, because a lot of places we go, they say, we want workforce housing, we want work, and we say, well, what is it? And they don't have a defined term, and they haven't advanced a committee or taken the steps to figure it out. They kind of know they want it, but they don't know how to go about asking for it. And so the county has been very progressive in making sure they're staying out in front so they know what they're asking for. So it makes it easy for a developer coming into town to understand, what the parameters are and to be able to plan for it. We feel like that everyone should be contributing for a period of time. So there is a rolling stock constantly of housing being offered for all levels of income.
Dane, if
Please
I
go
might
ahead,
add,
Natalie, thank you.
so from the business perspective, workforce housing is critical. And certainly that runs the gamut. It's not just the workforce housing definition that Jennifer mentioned, but it is that. It's workforce across the entire spectrum. And it is too much to expect that the private sector carry that entire load. It's too much. And so only through public-private partnerships such as this can you really create more of the workforce housing that Jennifer defined for us.
All right, thank you very much. General comments and questions related to historicity. Downtown, we all know, is a beautiful historic district, and we're proud of it. We want to make sure that we keep the character of our downtown just as it has been, even though there are certainly some changes that are always going to be on the horizon. What can the panel speak to in terms of efforts that will be made to make sure that this project that will concern a city block is going to match the beautiful historicity that we have in downtown Wilmington? I think that's a great question. I understand people's concern on that subject. Chris, do you mind speaking to that?
No, I'd be happy to. I mean, it's a question that we get often. Anytime that you work in an urban environment in a city as historic as Wilmington, the question is going to come up, how are you respecting and preserving the past? And I would turn that a little bit to say, how can you respect the past and build for the future? I mean, every architect wants to create a great design, a great work of art. But we also have to be really cognizant of building the urban fabric in a way that respects what came before it. The cities evolve and grow. I often point when I walk people around our great downtown to a couple of my favorite buildings, the Murchison building and the Trust building. These were really tall buildings with foresight. The developers and the architects and the people that built those in the early 1900s had a great vision for the city and what it could become and how it could grow. As you look at the Trust building on the corner of Front and Market Streets downtown, what an amazing structure. I mean, it rises, I think, 9 stories above the street. Everything else around it is 1 or 2 stories. I mean, that group had vision. I think we have to have vision. And everybody would look at the Trust building today, I think, and say it's a great testament to our city and a wonderful asset to the city and something we need to preserve. But look at that next time you go down it and think about the vision that it took to build it. So we have to have that. We have to look forward. We have to constantly try and build forward. I talked a little bit about the tectonics of downtown Wilmington. One way that I see respecting the past is by incorporating the materials that we see in downtown, knowing and understanding where the ballast stone came from that forms a lot of our retaining walls downtown. Using that type of thing as a specific element to Wellington is a wonderful thing. But we also need to evolve and grow. I was privileged to be involved with the design of both Union Station and the Wilson Center, 2 recent projects that were built using taxpayer bonds with the county commissioners and the community college trustees pushing forward and really have become great assets to our city. With Union Station, we really tried and hopefully succeeded in paying homage to the wonderful building, the old Atlantic Coastline Railroad building designed by Mr. Leitner over 100 years ago. It stood for generations, and many people remember going there to jump off on the train to go to Raleigh or points abroad. So it had a lot of emotional impact for people. And so we took cues from that and were able to reinterpret them in a way that houses a modern use, but really celebrates the past and what came before us. So that's the type of insight and approach we're going to take with the design of Project Grace. It's got to respect the past, but be looking toward the future in a way that we can all be proud of.
All right, thank you. I think that we've come close to the end of our time here. I'm going to ask a question that sometimes WDI gets a lot about grocery stores. Folks asking about that now as well, Holly. There's a grocery store potentially on the horizon, but why is it that we haven't been able to get a grocery store into downtown as of yet? I guess it's sort of related to this project in some ways.
That's a great question, Dane, and probably about the 70th time I've heard that question in just a few weeks in being here. So, the primary driver for retail has always been rooftops, has always been people. And if we don't have the residential, just as Natalie mentioned, if we don't have the residential to support folks coming into town, then they're not going to locate in our area. I mean, it's a competitive game. We want to continue to grow a thriving downtown, and we want to make sure that we get enough people and that the workforce has the quality of life that includes being able to plan for a grocery store. And to be able to attract one, we need people. So this project is another step towards a grocery store, a full-service grocery store, which we have heard many times.
Thank you very much. I think that's going to do it for us tonight, folks. As I said at the outset, I believe very strongly in this project. WDI believes very strongly in this project. The Chamber does. Obviously, the folks that we have in this room are dedicated to helping to provide accurate information to you so that whatever you've heard out there, tonight you can know that this is in fact what is being planned. Whether or not it moves forward, we'll see. But I love it. I hope that you have taken something away from this. If we haven't gotten to your question tonight, I understand there were quite a few questions. I'd be happy for you to reach out to me, reach out to the folks at WDI, at the county. We'll be happy to get you the answers that you need. And again, as Jennifer mentioned at the outset of her remarks, there will be a public hearing regarding the MOU Monday, March 15th at 4 p.m., 9 a.m. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. 9 a.m. Y'all, have a good night. Thank you for being with us. Bye-bye.